Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have a 3v3 for you guys today. It was one hell of a match and has a couple of plot twists, but right off the bat, the first one is that nobody here decided to cap Charlie. So my Lynx is going to be stopping and unloading in Charlie, but a little bit of a miscommunication. Now I'm piloting Scandi and I have a BKN 1C as well as an air superiority fighter, and that does make my initial deployment a little bit light. Lots of recon tanks, lots of infantry headed up to defend in Bravo. But the more interesting bit, I think, at the start was what happened over in Fox. So Bogan Battalion is going to be facing off against Canadian, and Canadian brought a little bit of a helicopter rush. So this is not one, but two W3W Sokals, and then we have a bunch of paratroopers in Mi-17s and a column behind it. But we have double squad of VBL Mistrals, and I really like this pick from Bogan. These guys are fast, they are brutal, they are scouts, and helicopters are picked up by ground detection, oddly enough, so at least that's what I've heard. I've never done any testing on it, but it might be nice to do that. And 1, 2, 3, 4, down they go. Mistral is getting all four of those helicopters. That opener is going to really struggle here, so we have UAZs and SPW-70s and all of this going up. It was initially supposed to back up this hold on the far side of Fox, but now those UAZ trucks sparring with the ERC-90s is actually doing pretty well. 20 points on the Segay and 10 points on the UAZs, but all of this armor is responding. There's a Leclerc, there's AMX 1390s, wonderful rates of fire here, and the Mosta-Schutzen and LSTR, these guys are not, well, Leitza-Schutzen are not cheap. Specialny Jednotki also behind them, and all of those men just getting ripped to shreds. Nighthawk as well coming in and does get a nice bombing run in there, but this sort of was then mirrored on the right-hand side just a little bit more of a successful opening from Crippling Depression here, as my Falskrim Jaeger were caught out a little bit in the open, trying to get into the town. RBS shooting in at those MTLBVs and whatever they're carrying inside, and I do lose the Lotto 106s to some infantry in the woods, but otherwise, this is just a successful hold for right now, which is all it really needs to be. I can fall back here, and that's fine. If I get some light advance into the woods, that's also okay with me. The Block 15 that was coming in, I think, did get a kill. We'll take a look at that later on, but yeah, certainly both the missiles away, and just trying to have some nice defenses as the BCAN will get some decent value in this game. So RBS is shooting in, and this is a Jalo. 30 points of about to be really sad as that vehicle does take oof, ATGM right to the face. I really wanted the T-64B, but I wasn't in the right position for it. So if these guys were forward, we could have done that, but I mean, RBS have 5 men instead of 2. It's still just a bit of a fragile squad, so I didn't really want to mess with that sort of thing. Now, one comment I have about this deployment is I needed more infantry on the right-hand side. We'll see why in just a minute, but a double squad of M91 AV Horse. These are the big boys. These are the 170-point tanks, 22 frontal armor, 22 AP, perfectly balanced as all things should be. And 10 rate of fire, I mean, just a monster of a tank. One of my personal favorites for the super heavies, actually. I know there's lots of arguments either way, but I mean, if US Marines could get up there, they would be relatively short-lived. However, nice from the Doctor here, moving up the BVPs and retreating those tanks before they could get back. There was also a bit of communication between me and Jumo, as I was asking him if he wanted any sort of ATGM plane or something like that. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, Bogan has just been absolutely relentless, moving through into Foxtrot, capping the far town, and just spreading out over here after crumpling the opener from Canadian. So Canadian is scrambling to get recovery of that situation, and I wouldn't put it past him. He is a captain for a reason. IL-102 bomber coming in, and this was sad, and I knew it was going to be sad, and yeah, I definitely lived up to that. We get a couple pieces of chip damage on that IL-102, but not a lot, and I lose all of the infantry in these towns. Just wonderful bombing run, perfectly targeted, and my automatic was not up for the task. And my ASPRD fighter was a little bit too slow, so he was still replenishing just a little bit as that engagement started. We also do have infiltration in the woods on the right, and I was starting to get a little bit nervous. My job right now in Bravo is to hold, because we have Fox. We are, I mean, there isn't a questionable but somewhat effective push into Delta, and there has to be some combined arms here, yep, from the Doctor and Canadian, into Foxtrot. So if I can hold, if I can make sure that that Crippling Depression over on my right-hand side here has to keep engaging me and pulling reinforcements this way, then our teammates, well, my teammates have a relatively advantageous position. Something they can perhaps capitalize on. I mean, there's just way more stuff on the field right now for my team than for the enemy team. But if I screw it up, if I let things get back here, if I start to have an emergency situation in Bravo, we could have ended up with a very symmetrical and, well, somewhat unfortunate game. So, the B-cans are going to be shooting into the towns there, VDV encountered in the woods, and this is where I really like the high rate of fire on the 103D. 2 points of damage here as they were protected by the woods, 3 points as they're not, and the Jaeger 90 are moving up to distract. So, yeah. You get a little bit lucky there, the Vampire was almost loaded, and that thing is brutal, but an M41A1 10-point tank is going to be shooting in at a nice 30-point transport there as well, and that nice big autocannon vehicle is, well, going to be a little bit unhappy. So, yeah, I mean, they do get revenge decently quickly. The M41A1 does not have the frontal armor to stand up to an autocannon's sustained fire, but if you can get a couple first shots on the way, it's not too bad. You can see I am bringing up reinforcements just in time here. We're going to be spreading out through the woods, making sure all of that goes all right. And I think on the right-hand side, I didn't get really to watch this during the games. I was handling things over on the right and left-hand side, rather. AMX 1390s moving up to the high ground. I love this fire support. I mean, this is a wonderful option here. And the first time I've ever actually seen anyone use the bow for raquetas. 30 points, I think, vehicles, and they did get a couple kills there, but they have a tendency of napalming their own targets, and this blocks line of sight, right? So that can be a little bit rough. But Spezial auf Klarer unloaded by the SPW-70s, and I mean, if not for that Panther, that would have been a really bad situation for us. And the MX-13s were lost, so it wasn't like we got anything there for free. SU-27M coming in, and that is a beautiful, beautiful 200-point plane, very expensive, very high performing, and some stuff does get killed by it, but we managed to fend it off just for right now. That's, I mean, 4 points of strength, 200-point plane. I'm evacuating that, and I think crippling was as well. One last missile trying to get the kill, and I thought that connected, I really did, but it looks like maybe not quite. In the meantime, we've caught some Morskaya Pechota out, and RBSs are just, you know, I thought that these guys were full at the time. Some of them are, some of them aren't, and I guess the RBS missiles aren't the most useful here for that, but I mean, I still do need to screen them from the woods. BTR Skretchets and the remaining infantry here has been isolated, found, and killed, but I mean, if these guys get in here, I don't really want to knife fight them, particularly if there were any actual infantry that were being transported over this way, and I really didn't know, and that sort of is the issue. If I had known these were empty at the time, it wouldn't have been a problem. Given that I had reason to suspect that they weren't, I mean, relatively cheap transports this far in could have well been bought, and I was very happy for the support from the Nighthawk from Jumo as well. Just if there were infantry, that would have been enough to demolish them. As it is, the only thing actually carrying infantry on this side was a BTRT, who will get decent damage on the NOs. I mean, it's a frag launcher, it's not the best for that, but we take out a BRDM-3, and that's one shot from the Fallskirm Jaeger 90 onto the BTRT. They unload a bunch of Sapri. You can see I'm pulling back, trying to get the first shot without taking sustained fire from the BTRT's frag round. So on this side, things have been cleared up a little bit. In the center, still a bit of a duel over those Vihors, but on the side, we managed to get the surround here, and between the Fallskirm Jaeger and the Jaeger 90, I was pretty confident that we could get the kill, but the Sapri are kind of brutal. And let's see, one shot, one kill. I guess Jaeger will take them out decently well. Well, there goes the BTRT, and with that, between the Fallskirm Jaeger and the Jaeger, we can definitely get some pretty good work. I guess the issue here is value, right? But even then, I don't think they really necessarily performed all that well. VDV have been taking an absolute pounding in the towns. There were a bunch dropped off, and even if the B-Cam doesn't kill them, we were getting VDV down to 2 strength, down to 1 strength. That's why you have that sort of sustained bombardment, is to soften a target for later infiltration, not necessarily to get the kills yourselves. On this side, I mean, that's just an unfortunate Sava right there. ATGM team will enjoy that every day and twice on Sundays, and I mean, I think some smoke here would have gone a long way. They had no reason to know that there was going to be a Leclerc right here, but losing FJB-40 like this is a tragedy, and I know that they were going for the town, and once they got in, that would still be a little bit tough, because FJB are not the best at killing infantry, and that's another Bov Raketas killed, and Bogan is just increasing his lead and tying down more and more resources there on the left. In the meantime, Proletary and the Bov Raketas again. I mean, honestly, I've never seen these in use before. I'm not sure, based on how they performed right now, that I would still use them. I mean, for example, these guys seem like a strictly better choice as they get killed, but still. Than the Bov Raketas, and they're 5 points cheaper. Another plane coming in, and I suspected this was another IL-102. Didn't really have a response quite quick enough. The Block 15 is, I mean, My reaction time for ASFs is meant for bigger maps. I was having a bit of trouble getting this plane out and on target quick enough. We get one missile in, second missile unfortunately not on the way. I was trying to dodge around enemy AA, and because of that my Jaeger 90 get pancaked, and he gets out right before two more missiles were headed his direction. So I really was unhappy about this, and my Block 15 also got killed by the AA that I initially ducked to try to avoid. So both hands, front hand and backhanded slap off of that maneuver, so I was really not exactly thrilled about that. In the meantime, Sapors and Chasseurs sparring with Vizietkri and Oats 64Cs, and this will also get pounded by the Beacon. I kind of wish I'd bumped second one, to be honest, but we got some good work off of it, and that's alright with me. Also an Atacams from the USA player, and I'm not sure where that's headed. Let's take a look, see if it gets anything. Always fun to watch these, I think. They're like the Dutch Lances as well. Let's take a look. No, swing and a miss, so that's a little unfortunate, but, I mean, you miss every shot you don't take. So, I have a double squad of Ihawks here. They're a little bit farther back than they need to be to really be useful, but I thought, you know, if there was support in the center here, if there was any sort of uncautious play, or if we started to lose the air game, this would be a nice pick, and then when I do eventual offensive up this way, then we can get something going. But it's about time for the second plot twist of this game. Namely, my mouse died. So I was sitting over here, I'd just given the orders for these guys to go. I hadn't quite realized that my tank was dead on this side, and I'd wanted to get some smoke on the way. I was going to get a bombardment on Beacon. I was looking to do all this different stuff here rather than just send these guys out to die, and I couldn't click anything. So my M113Gs are just moving up completely on their own. I still have them selected at this point, so we are going to do what we can to try and save things. Namely, once they start taking fire, they are going to be dropping off their Dragoner. This was hopefully, I mean, with the Jalos there, I was just trying to extend their lifetime as I was scrabbling to get a different mouse. But the mouse that I replaced it with, which is in just a second or two, always keep a spare on your desk by the way, was my old mouse, and my old mouse gets about 1 click in 3. So yeah, that kind of sucked. And the rest of the game is with the 1 click in 3, so you guys are going to see some sloppy plays and things like that that I promise I don't usually do, but it was a struggle to even get, like, I was trying to mouse over this stuff, and what would happen is my mouse would go up here, and then sort of like down this way, and then I'd have to reset it on the far right side of the trackpad, and then bring it over again. It would kind of wiggle a little bit, and I had to grab the selection groups that I wanted. It was all very difficult. So, I mean, here's an example. The Fennec Toe 2 should have already been out there, and I had the points to buy them, and the intention was have 2 of those back here. They're the backup planes, the tank being dead, and then, you know, a couple shots in, we'll kill a Strejet, we'll kill an ADA, we'll kill a Jalo, and the cheap Dragoner screen would have then been worth it if we got, you know, 90, 120 points worth of kills off of the helicopters and other supporting elements. As it is, I am struggling here just a little bit. I mean, we have a decent hold, but with the death of my expendable units, I was going to be a little bit delayed getting more things on the way. Pardon the sounds in the background, that's the cat having a nice time. Again, the cereal. I'm not sure why she loves cereal so much, but she really does, and I mean, I have to say it now. If you guys like games like this as much as my cat likes cereal boxes over on my counter, just give it a like, share, subscribe, and all that nonsense. In the meantime, Dragoner are going to be fighting with the BTR-90. This is not usually a fight that I'd want to take, but given that we can maybe get the first shot here, it could be worth it, and yeah, we do manage to take him down. This is something I like about the Dragoner, 20 rounds per minute, it's very nice, and the Jalo is also being screened out by RBS, so I definitely like, I wouldn't do it with any faction, but with Scandinavia, with things that get 5 strength ATGMs, I would be aggressive with them in these woods. I think it worked out decently well. Dragoner shooting in against VDV, and this is not in itself a winning fight, but we do have an STRV 103D supporting. Volkskrieger just trying to get up into the center town with a little bit of fire support from a double stack now of these 90-point tanks. I love these tanks. You guys can see from the kill list that I put up earlier, I definitely love these tanks. But we did have a radar AA, well, a seed plane rather, coming in. Shot at by the Chaparral, shot at by the EOTS Ihawks, and we do get a kill off the Ihawks, so, I mean, it worked out in the end. 27M, meanwhile, does kill my automatic. What ended up happening here was the seed plane actually spotted it, allowed it to be targeted by the 27M, and then the 27M got the kill, even though I turned the gun off. And we were on the way to losing sight, but the missile was away first, and it is fire and forget. So, Volkskrieger do take the town with support from the STRVs, and pushing these woods puts us in a devastating position, not to mention, I mean, the middle of the map still is just brutal. Face-to-face fighting. Some mortars actually going in as well, and I think the frontline LSTR was an interesting choice. I'm going to have to ask Canadian about that, because he's helped me out a lot on different deck choices, different unit selection things, and I mean, I get the idea is to fend off things like the Pillow Pirates, but even then I would have them behind the Viziatkri 90, because these guys are a little bit cheaper and they have that tertiary to buzzsaw through infantry. I mean, the secondary is about the same, 24 AP on these guys is pretty nice, RPG 7BR, but I don't know, leading the way with the LSTR, just, I had some questions. EOTS Ihawks moving up, they're my only AA in this area now that the automatic has been killed, and the Ka-52, I mean, I hate it calling that, KA-52, is not the best thing that you want to be targeting with automatics anyway because of those two anti-radar missiles. So if you turn that gun on the automatic just a little bit too early, you will take a missile to the face and down goes the automatic, so it makes these things so deadly. But STRVs and the M1 Abrams getting a couple shots, and then the Chaparral does finish that plane off. I really wanted it with the Ihawks, but these guys, in return for being non-radar, do suffer for a little bit shorter range versus helicopters than the higher performing radar option. So benefits and drawbacks all around. Spetsnaz grew, and this really kind of annoyed me. I mean, it was a good play, but I thought I cleared everything out. Turns out I hadn't. And some Dragoner and a little bit of just defenses over on this side was enough to take it out. So, EOTS Ihawks do get another kill, and this time the IL-102 is not going to be coming back, and this allows us to cap with the Bogan there, getting there a little bit before I was going to with the CV, and really just many thanks to both of my teammates in this game, sort of applying the pressure on all three sides of the field. SU-27M is being shot at, and the Ihawks were reloading, so we had one shot left, and we didn't get to take it. Instead, the Patriot, flying over my side of the field, well, the Patriot's not flying, the plane flying over gets hit by a Patriot as he's trying to get out, gets stunned and all that. So at this point, Jumo is pushing in against Motostrelki. I also have Jumo's support with the 1P Abrams, and the STRV is going to be really nice here for handling BTRTs. So again, a little bit faster rate of fire on the STRV than on the M1 Abrams, and that makes him particularly good denying enemy infantry and light vehicles. Although, I mean, pound for pound, let's see, 13 AP, 17 AP, yeah, I mean, honestly, I like the STRV a little bit better. I know the M1 Abrams is a tad better against infantry at close range, but only when you can get that secondary and tertiary gun online, and in the meantime, T-80 and the Mi-25 are going to make life a little bit difficult here. Shaken down to 2 points of strength. Chaparral answering, so that's pretty nice. And down goes the helicopter. There's a backup one from Canadian just immediately. That was pretty brutal. But, I mean, this is the nice thing about Chaparral's 12 missiles. So he's fired 10, a fair number of hits as well. And in ATGM's responding to the Mi-35, now this guy's shaken. That's going to be a drop in accuracy. But, unfortunately, was accurate. Ooh, geez, no, never mind. I thought that shot was going to land on the 1P Abrams. Well, goes to show you never really sure until you are, anyway. T-80 shooting in, and now artillery pounding into the woods. Probably a really good choice. I mean, he had just watched us move up here, so clearly that's where we were. And I was a little bit jealous that I hadn't had the infantry to push into this town myself and get the kills and all of this damaged infantry that the Beacon had spent time softening up. But we'll see the kill list on the Beacon later on. I mean, just a couple minutes now, as this does sort of prompt a wave of surrenders. I mean, automatics moving up, STRV. We have really good anti-air now up this far. STRV is able to get the kill on T-80 and potentially on another. Nope, that's the 1P Abrams. This just becomes a bit of a, yeah, I mean, okay, it's over. And I think what really happened was the opener was so lopsided in Fox that it really just drew a lot of attention over into Fox from Delta, allowed me to have some time in Bravo, and then, even with the mouse dying, just get bailed out by teammates who had won on the other side of the map. So I hope not to be that useless all the time, but I mean, the second half of that game, it was rough. It's not quite as bad as the time that I played with just a stylus. That was, I mean, geez. I was playing that on a Microsoft Surface, and I won the game, mind you. But it was hell, and I don't recommend it. So, kills and losses, 70-13 to 34-80, very lopsided, and even with that, I barely went positive by about 500 points. Lost a fair number of things in the early game, but then even more as the mouse went kaput. But Jumo and Bogan were able to help out, and let's take a look. A couple units did do very well. RBS 56 with a lot of kills. ADA's 20 points, Jalos are 30, and the BRDM 3, I believe, is 35? 30-35? Been a little while since I played Soviets. STRV did okay. This one does get unfortunately killed, but Block 15, this is the plane we saw. We didn't quite see at the beginning. We did take down a Lazar, and this is the one that gets shot down, chasing after that IL-102. BCAN, couple kills, lots of Proletary, some BVP M80As, no complaints there. Also got a BRDM-2U. That was what actually decapped the right side zone, so, I mean, hey, very worth it. Wish I'd bought a second one. I'm going to start buying second ones and just becoming an artillery son of a bitch who does that sort of thing every day. And another nice kill list off of one of the STRVs. So, that's all we've got for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.